Okay. Got it. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly take a look at the gallery and see if we have everybody who we're expecting to have. Looks like we have a nice full house. Let me take a quick look across at the names. There's somebody we're missing here. Let's see, Corey. Okay, Corey McPherson, you're not on here, right? Okay, bear with me just a second, everybody, and I just want to make sure that I have him. I had sent the meeting planner to him properly. Bear with me for a moment.
Recordings. Are you muted? Greg Graham just showed up, and I think Corey's with Greg Graham.
Oh, great.
Hey, Karen, how we doing?
Oh, good, Corey. I just wanted to make sure that you were there.
Yeah, we're not sharing our video yet.
Doing
It's
now.
coming. It's coming.
Okay, well done, well done. I was just about to go into the email to make sure that I got I had sent you the proper link and everything, but okay. For the benefit of the folks that just joined, we are recording this, and it won't be disseminated broadly on social media or anything. It's really only going to a couple of the folks that couldn't make it to the live session. So without much more time, I'm going to kick it off to Dennis Napier and DeAnna Powell, who are going to take it away. Dennis is our MC for the evening, longstanding member of Scots Charitable. And to say this gentleman has the gift of gab is an understatement. And I think you're quite proud and own that fact, Dennis. So I know it's not an insult. And so I'll hand it to you, Dennis, and then you can take it from here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I'm gonna take that as a compliment. We'll see. Maybe you didn't seem like you were laughing when you said it, so I'll take it as a compliment. So yeah, I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to this event. This is the second virtual whiskey tasting event that we've had. And we had such a great time the last go round. We're going to do it again. Most of the folks here, or a good number of the folks here, I kind of know, or at least some names, but there are some folks who I do not know. So for a quick introduction, talk briefly about the Scots Charitable Society. So we're the oldest charitable organization in the Western Hemisphere, founded in 1657 by Scottish prisoners of war. And we've been in continuous active charitable work since that time. As I said, we were started in 1657, which is quite amazing. I'd like to make note that Richard Lockhart, who is on the call today, is actually one of the founding members. So we appreciate him coming out and being here this evening. Also Ray Burgess, but Ray couldn't get his camera to work, so I'll save him for that one. So. But without further ado, what I'd like to do is hand this over to DeAnna Powell. She is going to be walking us through the tasting this evening. I'll let her give herself her own introduction about who she is, her role, and how she kind of came to have maybe one of the coolest jobs in the world. And then we'll go through that. And I think, I don't know, Karen, if you're going to mute everyone, or if that's something, or if everybody should mute themselves if they haven't done so, just so that you don't accidentally hear us. Oh, there's Ray Burgess. He's all dressed up. It's hard to shine a sneaker, but you look good, buddy.
So I haven't muted everybody. And yes, Ray, Best Dressed Award. Thank you very much. Nicely done. And good backdrop behind you. I will mute people and the whole group if y'all start to misbehave. So
would I be able to share my screen?
Yeah, let me I think I can give you those let's see, I think I can give you that right. Or can you just grab it? I'm not too sure.
I'll just see if I can.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to give me permission.
Okay, hold on. All right.
But I guess while she's doing that, I'll introduce myself properly. So I'm DeAnna Powell. I do have a pretty cool job. I'm very lucky and fortunate to be able to work on a wonderful, unique whiskey like Glen Moray. I've been with the company working on this brand for about a year now, but I have worked on various whiskeys in the past that also include Irish whiskeys and American whiskeys. I think I definitely lean on Scotch a little bit more. I'm the regional brand ambassador for this brand, and I'm living in New York, but Massachusetts is one of my territories. So that's kind of how this relationship came to be, crossing paths while I was doing a whiskey tasting somewhere. And yeah, I put together a little presentation for us to look at so you could see some imagery from the distillery and then kind of help us walk through the tasting. Should I try it again?
Yeah, you should try it again because I've just given you host access.
All right. It's always so scary when you're about to share your screen. Okay, can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to start off with a little video that'll just kind of go over some of the land around the distillery, and then I'll let it explain itself. Can you hear as well?
The Lake of Moray has 40 days more summer than any other part of Scotland. Glen Moray is located in a town called Elgin. Speyside is a very famous whisky distilling area. We have the mountains, we have the rivers, the glens. We're also very fortunate to have a fertile area where barley can be grown. When you arrive at the distillery, the first thing you will see, and it's probably the most important thing, is the water source. Without water, there is no whisky. For me, the role of master distiller is quite wide and varied. With only 5 master distillers in the history, the knowledge has been passed on from one to the other, hand in hand, finally to me as the 5th. It is a must that I ensure that the time-honoured traditions are continued. That does not stop me having the freedom to put my own expression. We have a wonderful access to many different types of cask and wood that I can use to mature Glen Moray and create different flavours, but whilst retaining the heart and character of Glen Moray. The team at Glen Moray have a great pride in their work. Glen Moray is a small distillery. It is self-sufficient. We do everything on the site. It's very much almost a family affair from start to finish. Glen Moray is a welcoming whisky. It is a whisky that is open to everyone to try. There are many different expressions, so there are many different tastes. The backbone of Glen Moray spirit is whisky that is matured in ex-bourbon casks from America. Yields a wonderfully well-balanced and rounded whisky. I have to look into the future, I have to use my vision, but I have to start that now because I'm developing products for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Some of which I won't see in my working lifetime. Every bottle of Glen Moray tells a story. The story of how that whisky has been made, the people that have been involved, and myself selecting the different casks that I've used. There's a little bit of heart and soul in every bottle of Glen Moray.
Okay, so up next, this is a map of the different regions. I'm sure a lot of you are relatively familiar with the different regions within Scotland and how they affect the end product. And so Glen Moray is based in Elgin Speyside, which is right here. Hopefully you can see my mouse, but it's that red dot, and then in the circle to the right. You can see that we're pretty close to a lot of the other main Speyside distilleries that are bigger names. So we're next to Macallan, Glenfiddich, Balvenie, Glenlivet, And we all definitely have similar flavor profiles, but one unique thing that we have at our distillery are shorter stills. So that produces more viscous, a heavier mouthfeel in our end product. And as stated in the video, we're off the River Lossy, which is our main water source. And this area just in general offers the perfect climate to produce a classic and innovative range for our whiskeys. Some additional photos. So one thing to note, we started off as a brewery before they started distilling spirit. So that's one fun fact. We've been distilling since 1897, and in 2017, we celebrated 120 years. And with that, we created a special release that we only had about like 3,000 bottles of produced. It was called the Masters. And it had 5 different vintages in it. That one, unfortunately, we are not tasting today because that's a really expensive bottle. We've moved up production to 24/7. So this helps us move to producing more liters every year. So currently we're at over 4 million liters. And as we continue to expand, maybe that'll grow from there. But most of our expansion over the last couple of years has revolved around increasing our warehouse space. So over here, all of these buildings, most of them are warehouses where our barrels are. The actual distillery is this small area right here, and then our welcome center and house off to the left. Is it safe to say that everyone is familiar with the styles of whiskey and what makes a scotch and stuff like that?
Several people are nodding. I think there might be a couple of real newbies here. So if you could give the a little bit of a overview of the different tastes for the
Okay.
new folks.
Yeah, so this is very like basic short stuff. So I have 2 short videos that just kind of goes over some general background.
Whiskey is the generic name for a distilled product made from fermented cereal extracts as malted barley or other grains, which is then aged in oak casks for a period of time. For Scotch whisky, the minimum length of maturation is 3 years. Whisky is produced from only 3 ingredients: water, yeast, and grains. From the very beginning, the type of cereals defines the type of whisky, whether it's barley, wheat, corn, or even rice. Glen Moray whisky is a single malt whisky. This means that it is made just with malted barley and produced in one single distillery. On the opposite, there are blended whiskies. They are made from various fermented cereals, barley, wheat, corn, or rice, and from different distilleries. The 4 Scottish regions creating distinct styles of whisky are the West Highlands, including Islay, which produce a full, smoky and salty style whisky. The Lowlands are famous for creating light and citrus whiskies. The Highlands create a floral and aromatic whisky, whereas Speyside is known for creating whiskies which are rich, fruity and sweet.
And then we're going to move on to a few notes on whiskey production.
The barley is steeped in water to start the germination process. Once it has absorbed enough moisture, it is then laid out to continue germinating. The barley is now referred to as green malt and is transferred to a kiln where it's dried to stop the germination process. At this point, peat smoke can be introduced to create a whisky with smoky characteristics. This is then ground up in the mill where it's turned into grist. The grist is then transferred into a large mash tun where it's mixed with hot water at about 64 degrees centigrade. The starch is converted to sugar, dissolved in the water, and what we extract now is called sweet wort. The sweet wort is transferred to one of the washbacks and turned into alcohol by the addition of yeast. The yeast also creates fruity and floral compounds such as esters. After 2 days, the alcohol reaches a concentration of around 8.5% alcohol by volume. This is called wash. The wash is now boiled up twice in copper stills. The copper helps to create certain flavours and remove unwanted compounds. The first is called the wash still, and the second distillation takes place in a spirit still. The spirit travels through the spirit safe, where the purest part, or the cut, is taken and then redistilled. What we now have is new make spirit. The new make spirit is transferred to casks, which have usually been used previously to mature either bourbon or sherry, and have been specially prepared by our coopers. Once the casks are filled, they're rolled into the warehouse. They then lie for many years, allowing the whisky to slowly mature and grow in complexity and in depth of flavour. The transformation here is gradual, but the resulting difference in colour, aroma and taste can be quite dramatic.
So on to our portfolio. This is actually not even the full portfolio that the distillery produces. This is the main line that is available in the States for the most part. Some things have been discontinued, like the 25, and then the 10-year on the left is just released in UK. But we have our traditional age statements up top, so going from 10 to up to 25, and then the classic range, which is what we're going to be tasting some of today. These are more entry-level single malts. They were initially released in the late 90s after not being in production for a while. So basically the distillery in the earliest days, they were playing around with a lot of wine casks. They were one of a handful that were actually doing this at the time. So they kind of were spearheading this type of aging. So specifically, they were using Chenin Blanc wine barrels and Chardonnay casks. So that's very unique, and I can say that they know what they're doing in this realm. So as far as whiskey tasting, I know that some of you have done tastings before, but it goes without saying, it's always great to have an appropriate glass, snifter, something that's a bit bigger on the bottom and gets a little bit smaller at the top. This allows you to nose in the best way possible. And as we taste, definitely take a note of the temperature, assess the color, look at the viscosity, and then nose it and figure out what kind of characteristics you're experiencing. Use water if preferred, if you want to open up the flavors. And so here we also have a flavor wheel that kind of is a guide to maybe help you like figure out what you're tasting if you can't find the words. But I like to say that there's no wrong answer for what you're tasting. Your palate can be different from one day to the next. Your palate can be different from how it was 3 years ago. So as we taste, I definitely would love to hear what you were all experiencing, whether or not it's like an actual flavor or maybe a memory of something. So, who is ready to taste some scotch? We're gonna taste the Elgin Classic. This is the base for everything else. I'm having trouble opening this bottle right now. Okay.
So DeAnna shipped all of these to us. There were some shipping delays, which is why we postponed this from April till now. And I don't know why, but there are people on my Scots Charitable board and in my friend circle who are not believing me that one showed up irreparably damaged. And they're all like, oh yeah, sure. But it really did.
Well, it's okay if you wanted to keep some for yourself too, if that's what they were getting at.
Was the damage that the bottles were empty? You know, I know you've got late teenage and young 20-year-old children there. I can't.
So, sorry.
No, I was about to just make sure that I'm looking at the right one.
Yes, so it's what we have on the screen. This is, again, part of the entry level single malts. This is meant to be, you know, for people who haven't been exposed to Scotch before, but they're also something that a seasoned Scotch drinker can enjoy. The whole line is light and soft, accessible to the disarming palate. And so with this particular one, it's a 6-year age statement. It's 100% malted barley aged for 6 years in either first, second, or third fill bourbon casks. The majority are first fill, as much as we can keep it that way, so we can maximize the flavor that we're getting from the bourbon. So as far as tasting notes are concerned, this is light, smooth, very easy drinking, a lot of citrus notes, which you'll find in the rest of the line. But let's go ahead and give it a little taste, a little nose first. I really get a lot of like vanilla notes on this up front. What is everyone else smelling?
Very good. I'm also getting vanilla.
I'm just getting classic Samuel Adams. Does anyone get that?
I'm not getting vanilla, but it's just got a very smooth, smooth on the palate.
Yeah.
It has a harsh smell, but on the sip, it's really nice.
Yeah, which is pretty surprising for something that's a little bit on the younger side. Sometimes you expect, you know, a 3 to 6 year old whiskey to be, you know, very overpowering.
Yeah.
But it's a nice step into like a space side Scotch. I'm also getting a little bit of ginger on there. It's got a short finish.
It's definitely floral.
Yeah, that's what's so great about space side Scotches is that they lend themselves well to, you know, those lighter notes and floral vegetal characteristics.
Like the small sips, that you can't get that flavor with it.
You got a very strong peppermint flavor? Or, no, it's not peppermint.
Yeah,
It's
like I said, there's no
ginger.
wrong answers.
Yeah. Whatever your taste is.
You know, sometimes you could even eat something and then your palate is just gonna like taste the Scotch in a completely different way. I mean, even when it comes to like doing like food pairings and stuff like that, which I think we might like talk a little bit about throughout this, you can find ways to open up the whiskey by eating like a certain type of cheese that will bring out a certain flavor profile in it. And it's the same kind of concept when you add water, because the water helps release the oils and then you get like a different layer of flavor.
So does anybody here drink their whiskey with a drop of water in it to open it up? I do that from time to time. You too, Brad?
Yes, definitely.
Same with, same with Jack.
Yep. They don't add too much water. You might just kill the flavor.
Just a tiny
Yeah.
bit.
Well, you have to use the right water. You have to be
I don't know.
careful about the flavor of the water that you're using.
Right. Maybe like use something like filtered.
Yeah.
Well, I got well water. Would that count as something good or?
I don't
Not
know
really
too much
sure.
about well water.
Think about
It's
it,
from the
probably more
earth.
often bottled.
It can have an iron flavor. I think some It depends on where your well is, you know, if it's clay. Of course, I'm drinking Quabbin water, which is what we get in Boston and Brookline.
Yeah, if you have bad water, you do not want to use that.
It's about the best in the world, I think.
All right, shall we go on to the next one?
That's tasty.
We're gonna move on to the port cask finish. This one is actually great for summertime, in my opinion, in addition to our Chardonnay cask, which unfortunately we are not tasting today. But the port cask is great because it goes really well with barbecue food. So, you know, think of how red wine might go with like red meats and stuff like that. The port can also lend itself well. Also, it's great to have with maybe like some dried fruits and cheese if you want to have that for your dessert as well. So this is a more like sweet expression, just because the tawny port specifically that we use, well, all ports are sweet, but I think tawny port in specific tends to be a little bit more heavy on the sweetness. And one thing to note about this one is that we source our port pipes from Porto Cruz, which is a sister brand that the company owns. So the company that owns Glen Moray is a French company called La Martiniquaise, and they acquired Glen Moray about like 5 years ago or so. And so this relationship helps us get direct access to the best port pipes. So we can say with certainty that this is where we're sourcing these from, but that doesn't apply to the rest of our lines because we can't really say where we're getting the Chardonnay or where we're getting the sherry casks or the Cabernet casks from, because it just depends on quality and availability. The finish for this one, the port cask, it'll be the stemming off the classic, which is the 6 years, and then it'll go for around 8 months, but it could go up to about a year, depending on whether or not the distiller thinks that it's ready. But I already poured myself out some. I really like the legs on this one. It really sticks to the glass. This is actually something.
I'm sorry, DeAnna. I was about to just pipe in that when we did the last whiskey tasting, we had the gentleman, the North American distributor for the Glencairn glass. He joined us and he talked to us about the engineering and the dynamics of the glass being important. And I know you mentioned that earlier, but I see a lot of people holding either first gen or second gen Glencairn glasses, which is great. And the frugal Scot in me never has purchased the higher price ticket. So I'm actually using a Trillium beer tasting type of glass, but it kind of has I just chose it for the bowl at the end to kind of open it up as well. Yeah, so I didn't even, spend that extra $10 for the special glass. But
no judgments here.
For those who have one, enjoy it.
You know, I learned in a pub in Scotland, in Glasgow, that as an American, I didn't know how to drink Scotch. And they said, when you put the Scotch onto your palate, hold it there for a moment, breathe in deeply through your nose, give it a couple of seconds and swallow. And surprisingly, you get more flavor that way. I didn't believe them when they told me, but it does make a difference.
100%. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm that patient. I think I just want the.
Same. I just drink it.
Yeah, this seems to be a much more mature offering, and it makes sense with the amount of time to finish with pushing 7 years.
Yeah.
As compared to the first. This is a much smoother to the palate also.
Yeah, I think the tawny port brings nice rich red fruit with
the
little
cask.
tannins.
Yeah, you can really taste the casking. I think that's really cool.
Port is huge. I think the port barrels really put a lot to this to give it that kind of thickness that it has, the legs that you were speaking of, and how it attaches itself to the vessel.
By the way, Karen, those haggis chips are delicious. If they're great for clearing the palate.
Are they? I haven't opened mine yet. So
Good job.
everybody who is participating got a bag of haggis crisps, and I hope they're still fresh. And I'm pretty certain that the amount of stuff that they add to crisps is making them fresh, but they were bought a long time ago for April, so hopefully they're still tasty. But I was inspired to get these all for you because of a virtual Burns night that I participated in through one of the many different groups I think that host them in January, and I was immediately inspired and purchased them then, and they took about 16 weeks to get here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, just casual. That's normal these days.
Good job, Karen. And it says September of 22. So, you know, best by September. So I think you could save those extra ones for the fall.
They are amazing.
Yeah, they are.
Good.
So what other tasting notes is everyone getting?
I just
Obviously,
got
we're going to get some like dark chocolate in there.
Just a very distinct fruity taste.
I
I think
definitely
I'm
get
getting the cinnamon that you noted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found it to be, you know, you get that plummy port kind of taste for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes it reminds me of like a strawberry and cream effect, and then leans into the vanilla.
I don't think it's as fruity per se, but
I definitely get the chocolate kick, and I feel the different tastes of dark milk. It feels very milky sometimes. That's really a part of the viscosity of it. Really
Yeah.
does stick.
Is anyone here, has anyone here had this brand before? I assume somebody maybe.
Nope, this is my first time, and I think you have a new customer.
Awesome. I mean, the great thing about this whole portfolio or this line in specific is that their price point is like unbelievable. All their portfolio is meant to be accessible price points for people. So we're really competitively priced up against our competitors with like this one, for example, port cask and all the rest of the finishes will be retail price at like 35-ish. If you go to a chain, like a Total Wine or something like that, they might have it for like a couple dollars less than that. And then the classic, the original classic will be a few dollars cheaper just because it's not aged or finished in anything.
You know, what's the age of these bottles?
So every finish will range from like about a year to 2 years. It just really depends on which one it is. Like the Chardonnay and the Cabernet casks will be up to 2 years just because those are a little bit more subtle in terms of flavor profile. But this port cask with the finish will land at around 7 years.
Wow, that's very young for Scotch. I'm surprised it tastes as good as it does for being so young.
Yeah.
Usually I don't drink anything less than 15 years because it's not smooth. So I'm really surprised that it's still smooth.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, I love our 15-year, but a top contender for me in this line is the port and then also the Chardonnay.
Impressive.
is this the optimal time for taking this to market? In other words, this aging, or if it were kept in the cask longer, would it get better?
I think that's probably a question more for the head distiller.
Oh, let's get him on
Yeah, why not? I'll give him a call. It's like what, 3 a.m. over there now.
I would tend to think
Uh,
it's more smoother in the longer it was in the cask.
I just
Yeah,
wondered
I
if,
mean-
if some, like wines can't, some need to be used, taken out at a particular point in the process.
Right. Yeah. We have other finishes with the port cask, like in the 21 and the 25, those are finishes. But I don't think, I mean, I could be wrong on this. I don't think they have like a full maturation port cask. So they just utilize them for finishes. And the oldest or the longest amount of time I've seen them do a finish is 3 years. So the 25 is a 3-year finish, and then the 21 is a 2-year finish.
Good.
DeAnna, are the casks reused?
I think sometimes, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that's another thing that kind of just depends on like quality checks. Because after a while, you just, if you use it so many times and you don't really have those flavor profiles that are being imparted on the whiskey. So it's just best to probably use them once or twice. And that's exactly why they say, like, when you age, do full maturation, like bourbon barrels, then you want to do either first or second fill, or if you can keep it to first fill, that's always going to be the best, because that's where you'll get the bourbon influence the most.
DeAnna, when you asked earlier if anybody had ever had this one before, there was a gentleman on here who wasn't just waving or raising his hand, he was waving his hand. So Rob Young, I'm not surprised that you've had this before, but is Speyside? Ah, you have the glass to show it too.
Sorry, I just can't see when I'm in this presentation mode. So I'm like just talking to
That's all right.
myself, kind
No,
of.
that's fine. But Rob, is Speyside one of your favorites? It's one of mine for sure.
I don't, yeah, it is, but I also like the peaty stuff. Thanks to Ray.
Peated stuff is great. We have a peated part of the line, or peated offering in the classic line. They initially were going to try to use peated malt for blending, but in the end, they just created a peated single malt. So nothing else in our portfolio, unless it like specifies that it's peated, has any peat in it. So with that peated one is actually really nice for like a Speyside peat. It's a 5 to 7 year old aged in first, second, and third fill bourbon barrels. The peat parts per million is at around 52, so it's pretty high. But they're doing it the Speyside way. So they're not trying to stand up to those Isla peats, which are fantastic on their own. But a lot of peated drinkers do enjoy this one too. So maybe another tasting in the future. If you see that on the shelf somewhere, definitely make sure to get it, because it's not available in every state, but their price point will also be at around 35.
Okay.
Keep an eye out for it.
Oh, go ahead. I was just thinking maybe it's a bottle we can buy for raffling off at the golf event in August.
Maybe.
Yeah, you can find it.
I could send you some golf towels for that too.
Oh, we'd love it. We would definitely love it. We take any merch from any source.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's
That would be
free, we
great.
take
Thank you.
3. So Deanna, I
Thank
do have a
you.
question more kind of on the business side of it, and you may not know the answer, but it's more on my own curiosity. So like this is like a $6 billion industry worldwide that I read about. And you mentioned, ramping up production 24/7 and building more warehouse space. And I probably speak for a lot of folks on the call that have enjoyed Scotch in the past, that especially some of your higher end single malts, I would say in the last 10 or 15 years have really gone a little bit crazy and from a price point. I remember being able to get I think it's a 12-year-old Oban for about $35 to $36, maybe 15 years ago. And now that's a $70 plus bottle of whiskey. And, you know, I remember when I went to Scotland, there was a lot of talk about sort of the Asian market driving that. And a lot of people, you know, buying up a lot of Scotch. But the problem is as the video spoke to, right, this isn't pushing out widgets, right? You have to wait at least 3 years before you can call it whiskey or Scotch. And then obviously if you're trying to mature it to 15, 20, you know, 10, 15, 12 years, whatever. Do you think that's where maybe because some of your marquee products are sort of in the 6 to 7 age range, like that's allowing you to give it a competitive advantage, or compared to some of those other whiskeys that you see out there? Like I said, as a single malt, you know, the prices for some of them, you know, Lagavulin and Oban, the prices of those are pretty sky high.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that because they released this line before everything became so crazy, I don't think that was like part of their plan, or maybe it was, but I think in the end they kind of lucked out with being able to have other offerings while they age other things for a longer amount of time. But to add on to that, the 25 year that I was mentioning before that we don't have anymore was something that they had to change production on because they couldn't keep up with the demand on it. So that's why they're producing the 21 now, which is also just, you know, flying off the shelves too, because while other brands are not being able to refill or restock some of their higher SKUs, then we've been fortunate enough for people to want to buy ours at even better prices. And then, you know, we're kind of like getting into that territory too with our higher age statements. But I think this line definitely like helps us out in the interim when we're in those kinds of scenarios.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes.
What's your recommendation of chilling this product, the whiskey? Or is it not
Like putting it in a fridge? I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I just keep it on your shelf, and if you want to you know, have it cold, it's probably better to just put an ice cube in it. I can't really say that it would alter anything just because this line is chill filtered anyway. Usually you might see some separation of like the components in the liquid with our non-chill filtered products like the 18 year. But for the most part, like I don't think it would affect it like heavily, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Dennis and Karen, to work while you're up in New Hampshire, enjoying the summer. Work on a cocktail for us using one of these, because I know that there's a lot of single malt whiskey cocktails, and between you and Lauren and Johan, I'm sure you can come up with something for us.
Well, challenge accepted. And now that we have 4 of these glasses, we can clearly have guests up.
Yeah. Definitely share any types of drinks that you make. I've made a really delicious like an espresso martini type of cocktail with the port cask, because the port flavor profile plays so well with the coffee. And then I did something with our Chardonnay cask. It was like I did orange marmalade. It's kind of like a twist on an old fashioned orange marmalade, Chardonnay cask, and then some white vermouth. So if you want something that's a little more like traditional, you kind of have variations. And then obviously you can always go to our website. They have a lot of great cocktails on the website too. But please, you know, do some research and come up with something cool on your own too.
Fun.
Who's ready for the next one?
All right.
Let's do it. We're gonna do the sherry cask finish. So on this one, we use Oloroso sherry casks. Oloroso sherry seems to be the go-to type of sherry. I think sherry has like a special relationship with whiskey aging. I personally don't like sherry on its own, and I think it's just a matter of probably trying to find one that I actually like. But when it is used for finishing or even full maturation, it does something special. So this one, much like the port cask, starts out as 6 years aged in bourbon barrels, and then this will be finished for around a year in the sherry casks. We also have a 15-year-old that is full maturation sherry married with full maturation bourbon barrels. So full 15 years in sherry plus full 15 in bourbon barrels. And it's super delicious. But this one's great because you get a lot of the sherry in the nose up front. It has like a light flavor, but there's some spice and bitterness, a little bit of nutty notes and bitter dried prunes, and just like a short, small hint of wood. A little bit dry from the tannins in the sherry.
Has a great aftertaste.
Yeah, you get a lot of the sherry up front, and then on the finish, the bourbon notes come in.
Does anybody think that the first nose on it is hay?
Yeah, I'd agree.
I actually really like the beginning. I feel like it's like fruit. There's a little bit of grass, but the finish is harsh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be my favorite one. I
Nice.
do get a weird like wood feel, but nothing like alfalfa or probably more like
wood.
hay.
I agree with wood. Not in a bad way.
So I know initially that they did try to utilize other types of sherry casks, but ultimately they settled on Oloroso just because it helps highlight those like dark chocolate notes in the dried fruit. They have other lines that are only available in the UK, unfortunately. So I'm constantly jealous of the special releases that they have out there. But they did release a Manzanilla cask finish, which is very different, a little bit lighter and softer than what we would have here. But those things, yeah, you have to buy from the UK. So sometimes I buy from like Whiskey Exchange, or there's like another website that I sometimes buy special bottles from. Some of the other things I actually have over here that I just wanted to share with you. I have this rum agricole finish. Can you all see it? Can you see me?
No.
No.
No? Oh, okay. So I'll just show it to you when I'm done with this thing. Maybe let's just finish off with the Cabernet cask. So this one, it's very unique. I think it's the most complex of the entire line. You don't see a lot of Cabernet cask finishes in whiskey. There are some other ones out there that use Chardonnay casks, but people tend to get very intrigued when they see the Cabernet cask. We source the Cabernet from the Bordeaux region, but we can't share the exact vineyard because it changes all the time. This is definitely the least classic of the classic. This one is a longer finish, so it'll be 18 months to 2 years in the finish, just because of the subtle notes in the Cabernet cask. So this really oscillates on the palate. In the nose, you get a lot of red wine up front.
This is my favorite.
It really comes in waves, and the tannins shine through on the back end. And then you get those nice like velvety dark chocolate notes, pepper, spice, some charred oak. And has a good fortified wine finish.
I quite like that one too. That's a good one.
I taste the pepper and spices.
It's
So
so
this
good.
one's just great to have with chocolate.
Yeah, it's like an after dinner drink. It's excellent.
Yeah.
By any chance, are you
Or-
giving out 750 milliliter samples?
I am not.
So,
Very
but the photo shows it looking quite a bit more rosé than the one I'm looking through here. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's because when you have a smaller bottle or smaller pour, it looks lighter. And then these photos are like professional photos too, so they have altered lighting and editing. But I say when you like notice any color on anything, I probably notice it the most on the port cask. Like the port cask tends to be a little bit more pink in hue.
Okay.
But for right now, I think it's just because like you have a smaller bottle than what's there.
Are you trying to get me to get a bigger bottle?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Sold.
Dude, you're on Zoom.
What's that? Bigger bottle?
So I'm going to ask a quick question of Cheryl, one of our members, our newer members. I think when I was giving you the flights or the tasting kits, your son was with you at the meeting. Are you actually sharing with your son on this flight?
Yeah, that's why the video is off. But yeah, we're splitting it, and I think we've probably had enough to drink for both of us. We're a bit of a lightweight.
That's funny. My daughter is also on the screen. Terrence isn't a whiskey drinker, and Cora's not a whiskey drinker, but working at the Haven, she has to know a lot about whiskey in order to suggest whiskeys for people who are eating at the restaurant. So this is her homework right before the Haven reopens. And DeAnna, this is an open invitation. If you're ever in the Boston area, please let me know, because I would love to take you there and introduce you to Boston's only Scottish restaurant and pub. It's a really great
Where
place.
in Boston is it?
Jamaica Plain, which is a stone's
okay.
throw from where I live. And Cora's been working there for a couple of years, and they just moved from one very small location to a very large and lovely polished location. So so when you come up, you've got a dinner on the Mahoney's.
Oh, definitely. I am actually going to be driving through this week. I'm going to head up to Maine, but I'm stopping in Gloucester to see a friend.
Nice. That's great.
But I know it's pretty short notice for you.
And they're not open yet, actually.
Oh, okay.
They're waiting. They're
That's
waiting
right.
on one more inspection, I think, from the fire inspector, or one more clearance before they get the green light to open. And I know that the proprietor Jason is chomping at the bit to get going because he's been ready to go, ready to pour pints and ready to serve for a couple of weeks here. So as soon as it's go time, Jason will call all the folks in, and Cora will have to dust off her Scotch skills. And I think, Cora, you might have mentioned once that you don't necessarily, she doesn't have a palate for and a personal experience with Scotch that I would know of. But she has to suggest Scotches, and I think, Cora, you mentioned that you don't necessarily suggest the lowest priced one on the menu. Like you kind of go for it sometimes, right?
I'm not revealing my secrets. No, but you know, even listening here will help me recommend things to people. So I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to coming up and checking out the place.
Good. I hope you do.
So I stopped sharing my screen because I wanted to show you guys these other bottles. So some they create like different series. So one particular series is the Warehouse 1 series, and this is one of their original warehouses that they use to do like this any like super special releases. So warehouse 1 is an original warehouse that is a little bit shorter, like the roof is shorter, and there they use the original aging method, which is to have the barrel on its side versus having them tall and then stacked upon one on top of the other. So this one that I have here is a Tokai finish. It's a Hungarian wine. I never knew what Hungarian wine was before. Oh, great. I can't even like show it to you.
Just hold it still and we can see it.
Oh, wait.
There you
Yeah,
go.
don't move.
Much better.
So yeah, I had no idea what Hungarian wine was before. So I got introduced to it by trying this, and I thought this was delicious. And it makes me eager to go try Tokai on its own, just so I can kind of see, compare those types of tasting notes. And I was going to tell you all that maybe when you do have some time and you want to do something like that, it would be very interesting to take the Cabernet cask finish and then get a bottle of Cabernet and kind of like taste test side by side to see how you can notice the influence that the wine has on the whiskey. Another bottle that I have here is from their, it's a small batch UK exclusive cask finish project collection. This is a rum agricole finish, which I absolutely love. The company La Martiniquez also owns a rum agricole brand called St. James, so they have direct access to their casks there. And this one's just fantastic because the dryness from the rum agricole and the sweetness from it really kind of play well. I don't know if any of you like the other Caribbean casks that you've seen out there, like Balvenie 14 years, fantastic. I think Glenlivet has one that's really good. So if you ever want to buy one of these online, hopefully you can find one. I definitely recommend that one.
What is it called again, please?
Rum agricole finish. And so they're really popular in the UK. They've actually only been distributed in the States for a little over 10 years. They're like the 6th largest in the UK and 16th globally. For the United States market, they're definitely still building a name for themselves, but the only reason why we all haven't seen that much of it is just networking and distribution. So initially they were imported by Prestige, and then within the last couple of years, one of the divisions within Sazerac picked it up. So now that really opened up our network with our distributors. And honestly, like anytime I go out into any market, people love it and they want to buy multiple SKUs from us, not only because of the price point, but because it's good. And then people buy it. Like once they taste it, they really have no reason to not buy it. So yeah. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah.
I have a quick question for one of our guests. So Corey and your partners, I'm just curious, when you christen a new building, are you doing so with the appropriate spirit in hand, or are you bringing bubbles instead? What's the go-to?
When we christen a building? Can you hear me?
That's more like a ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I need to mark you with the ceremonial torch.
Yeah.
DeAnna, I have a question. Which is your most popular label?
The port cask and the 12.
Okay.
Those we sell the most of.
Okay, when I get to the state liquor store, I'll look them up.
Yeah, the 12 you'll find at around $40. So that's a really great price for a 12 as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
For the folks on here who do cross state lines with some frequency, Scott and all the folks that are, and Dennis and Karen, as you go up to New Hampshire, do you find a difference in the state liquor store prices compared to what you'd find at like liquor stores here, Blanchard's or Total Wine or anything?
New Hampshire has the best prices no matter where you go in the country.
Yeah, they have the state stores, which are just awesome. So yeah, much lower prices typically, kind of across the board.
In fact,
Yeah.
I landed in Las Vegas, and at the airport, they advertised having the cheapest prices of alcohol in the country. I picked out my favorite brands of scotch, wrote down their prices. When I got back to the Manchester Boston airport, they had a state liquor store in there. I immediately checked out their prices. New Hampshire was somewhere between $6 and $8 cheaper per bottle.
Wow.
Big difference.
Good to know.
Yep.
And that matters these days.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, as a footnote to that, the Alcoholics Anonymous said that they did a study and they found that per capita, New Hampshire consumes more alcohol per person than anyone at 4.5 gallons per person. Now, we only have a population of about 1.5 people. And what we discovered is that when people go north to Maine, Vermont, and the Maritime provinces, they stop the liquor store and buy. They consume their alcohol on vacation. And when they come back, they said, those prices were great. We're going to stock up and buy more. That's why we're rated one.
That's what I was going to say.
My parents still live in Lake Winnipesaukee, and we always hit the Hooksett toll booth in New Hampshire.
Yep.
So
Well, that's why they're so strategic to put it right as your rest stop on the highway is your liquor outlet.
To pay the $6 a gallon of gas to get up to New Hampshire.
Right.
And it's on both sides of the highway, right?
I know, right?
Both sides.
It's going home too.
Get you coming and going.
And it's massive.
Pretty smart. Just one more quick question to the Misters McLean. I'm just curious if this is satisfying the elder Mr. McLean's palate right now.
A question to me?
Yes. Are you liking it, Mr.
What
McLean?
would you repeat it, please? What's the question, please?
I'm just curious if you're really liking what you're tasting right now.
What are you liking? Are you liking what you're tasting?
Well, my preference was the sherry, the cherry cat.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was it. And
The port is a close second.
and then the port. I have bought Glen Moray for many years, and the port was usually. I was gifted a lot with port.
Nice.
Bottles.
Nice.
Fan of the port.
So that was good. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
And Richard, what is this brand of Speyside or flavor of Speyside Scotch good for you too, or do you like that earthy, more peaty, smoky taste?
No, I like this, and to be honest with you, it's the first time I've had it.
Good.
And it is. It's very good.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Very well. Yeah.
Glad you liked it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, nice brand.
Yeah, DeAnna, can I ask you about that the rum one you just talked about again? I mean, and how
The rum agricole finish.
Yeah, and how much is that a bottle?
I think when I bought it, it was like upper 70s or something.
Is that something that's still they're selling right now, or was it a special edition?
Whiskey Exchange might have it online, or if you
got a
could
link.
type in like
I just got a
where.
link to that on the chat now. You've just opened up the chat, you'll see my list.
Oh yeah, I see it there. Awesome. Yeah. Right now we did a lot of work down in the West Indies there. We came into flavor with the Ron Zacapa. So I know
nice.
That's what just piqued our interest with the whiskey with the rum on that. It seemed like that would be a great try.
Yeah, I'm trying to advocate to get this to come into the States just because we're seeing so many other Scotch brands. Like I was thinking, I think Dewar's has one too. So there's clearly a demand for it and people enjoy it. And if we have the ability to get casks whenever we want from them, then it's a no-brainer. But I think they just need to, make sure that we're doing amazing with the rest of the stuff that we have, because we have a pretty extensive line. Not a lot of other brands have this much to offer.
That's great.
Well, this has been very educational, and I'm sure Karen has informed you that you now have we now have your logo and hot link on our website. So you've got advertising on our Scots Charitable website in a section called Scott Links.
Oh, thank you.
No, we thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any
Awesome.
last questions for DeAnna?
I bet Dennis has a last insult for somebody, but
For you.
Brad, it's like you know who I am.
I do.
No, what I was going to say is that if there weren't any more questions, I was just going to extend our gracious thanks to DeAnna for today. Really wonderful. This is an important part of our outreach. Obviously, the pandemic changed how we had to do things in the past couple of years. In the past, we were more likely to get together in person, but we had to get creative. Karen's done a yeoman's job as far as this goes. And you know, these are the kinds of things that is part of our outreach. You know, we've got a couple of missions. One is to continue our charitable work, also, you know, to network and really bring cultural awareness, in particular to Scottish and Celtic culture. But on the charitable side, I mean, by doing events and getting our name out there and getting donations, you know, we're able to collect money. And in this year, we've given out almost $100,000 in undergrad scholarships. And certainly events like this, and we certainly ask for your folks to, you know, continue the good work that you do for those who are in the society, but also, you know, to spread the word and tell people about what we're doing. And hopefully we can have more events. I know we get the golf event coming up, but more events in person where we can see each other, where I can divvy out insults in person.
Awesome. Well, I just want to piggyback on what Dennis just said, but thank you very much to everybody who participated, who bought the flight with the Glencairn glass. I hope you all enjoyed it, but super grateful to you, DeAnna, for underwriting this for us. I mean, without your generous contribution of these flights for us, our costs would have been so high. We still would have gone forward, but we know that the net number that we are giving over to the scholarship fund would have been a very different number than what we are generating tonight by your generous gift to us. So thank you so very much for that. We're very grateful. But if we all can just pour one more little splash into your glass, because I want to raise a toast.
Okay, I'll do
And you can't do it with an empty glass. You can do it with water. So I'm going to raise a toast to DeAnna and to the Scots Charitable and to Wayne McDonald as a happy birthday to Wayne, who couldn't be here.
Yeah.
So
Happy birthday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy birthday, Wayne.
Well done. Well done. So thank you very much, everybody. If anybody has any additional questions that kind of come to mind, just send me a little email. You have my address probably from the dozens of emails I've sent you. Just send me a note and we might be able to ask DeAnna a couple more questions offline. But DeAnna, take it away for the final comment. It's all yours.
No, just thank you for having me. I'm glad you all enjoyed it, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you in person soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
all
you.
right, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.